forgets anyone who puts him first.
耶稣永远不会忘记那些将他摆在首位的人。
최우선으로 생각하는 사람을 절대로 간과하지 않으세요.
There is never a situation that comes up in the Bible where somebody acknowledges Jesus above all of the other relationships that they have. Their children, their parents, their nationality. And Jesus always makes a big deal out of
在
those
圣经
situations.
中，没有一个人把耶稣放在比自己的家人、子女、国家更重要位置的人被耶稣所忽视。
자녀보다
耶稣认为他们很重要。
제일 첫 번째로 최우선으로 두는 사람들에게는 특별히 하나님이 특별하게 생각하세요.
So there is not one situation where Jesus makes a big deal in the Gospels of someone's righteousness, of their good
不过
behavior.
在福音书中，耶稣也从来没有强调过任何一个人的好的行为，或者任何一个人自我称义的行
He
为。
never says about someone, now that is a good
他从来
guy.
没有说过，哎，这是一个义人，
사람들을
没有这样说过。
저 사람은 정말 좋은 사람이다.
I don't mean to be pointing to Trevor and saying that, but like say, he helps old ladies
我们
across
拿
the
特雷弗
street.
宣教士举个例子，他总是扶老奶奶过马路，
거기에 있는 모든 사람들을 도와주고
He gets the cats
他
down
帮
out
助
of
别人把
trees.
小猫从树上救下来，
그 고양이를 구조해주고
He gives big
他给
money
教
in
会
church.
捐了很多的钱，
교회에 아주 큰 돈을 많이
He
헌금하고
is always
也总是在
praying,
祷告，
항상 기도하고
let that guy in
甚
my
至许会
kingdom.
说让这样的人来进入到我的国中。
내 왕국에 드릴 거야. 하나님이 그러지 않으셨다는 거예요.
然而，
However,
그렇지만
most of
在
the
大部分的
Gospels
福音书中，
대부분의 그 복음에서는
are made up of stories of terrible
记录
people
的都是一些很糟糕的人的故事，
사람들이 이렇게 예수님을 믿는 경우가 있어요.
who Jesus is amazed by
但是这些人往往让耶稣感到很惊讶，
그래서 이렇게 예수님이 놀래는 그런 사람들이 있어요. 형편이 없는데
because they put Jesus first in that
因为就是这
situation,
些
in that
人将
encounter.
耶稣放在了首位。
상황에서도 예수님을 첫 번째로 최우선으로 생각하는 사람들이 있단 말이에요.
Let me remind you a
让
few
我来帮助
examples.
大家回忆起一些经文来。
Jesus is hanging on the
当耶稣
cross.
被钉在十字架上的时候，
그 십자가에 이게 못 박히셨어요.
There's a thief on his left, a thief
在
on
耶
his
稣的
right.
左右两边各有一个盗贼与他同钉十字架。
도 있었어요.
And one of the thieves
其
says
中
to
一个盗贼
Jesus,
对耶稣说
강도는 이렇게 얘기했어요.
Hey, you dummy, if you're the son of God, why did you get down from here? What：“ are
哎
you doing up，
如
here?
果你是神的儿子，为什么你不能从十字架上自己下来呢？”
내려가야 되는 거 아닙니까? 이렇게 강도가 얘기했어요.
And the other thief says, hey, leave that guy alone. He didn't do anything wrong. We're the ones who did
但
stuff
是另一个
wrong.
贼却说：“嘿，你别去烦这个人，他没做错任何的事情，反倒是我们自己犯下了很多的罪行。
우리가 죄가 있는 사람이다.
And he says, Jesus, remember me when you come ” into
他
your
又说：“
kingdom.
耶稣啊，你的国降临的时候，求你纪念我。
만약에 예수님 왕국에 가게 되면 저를 기억하세요.
And Jesus' ”
而
response
耶稣的
is,
回应是
예수님이 이렇게 답하셨어요.
就是你了啊，你会进我的国。
강도에게 당신은 왕국에 들어갈 거야.
there were once 10 lepers who came
曾
to
有10
Jesus.
个得大麻风病的人来找到耶稣，
문둥병자 환자가 왔었어요.
Jesus healed
耶
them
稣治
all.
愈了他们，
그 나병 환자를 다 이렇게 치유해 주셨어요.
They all
他们
went
当时
away.
都走掉了，
모든 사람들이 갔어요.
但
And
是
one
只有一个
returned.
人回来了。
한 사람만 예수님께 돌아왔어요.
Jesus was amazed. He was amazed both that the 9 didn't come
耶稣
back.
是很惊讶，当然他也同时也因为另外9个人没有回来而惊讶。
아는 거에 대해서도 놀랬지만
You see, any time in the Bible that someone honored Jesus by making that the key relationship in the moment, their key concern,
每次有圣经里的人物去荣耀耶稣，将基督放在首位的时候，
얘를 아주 제일 먼저 생각한 최우선으로 생각하는 사람들은
he never
他从
forgot
来
it.
都不会遗忘这些人。
예수님이 있지 않으세요.
In fact, there was even a story, there was a woman who, do you remember she anointed Jesus and then she washed his feet with
你
her
们记得有一
hair?
个女人用自己的头发擦拭耶稣的脚这个故事吗？
주님한테 예수님께 와서 그 머리로 이렇게 닦으면서 향수를 부어가지고 발을 닦아준 그런 여인이 있었어요.
And people said, ooh, that is really
人们会
gross.
说：“哎呀，这实在是不太雅观啊。
사람들이 그랬어요. 아우 그 여성 정말 아우 더럽게 왜 저렇게 할까?
And Jesus said, you know what? I am going to make sure that anytime my story gets told, her story gets told with mine,
而
she's
耶稣
in.
说，普天之下，無論在什麼地方傳着福音，也要訴說這女人所行的，做個紀念，就是她要進我的國。
여성의 이야기도 함께 할 거다. 그리고 그 여성은 나와 함께 하나님 왕국에 들어갈 거다. 이렇게 말씀하셨어요.
You see, for Jesus, the principle of who is in and who is out
對耶穌來講，誰進他的國，誰不能進他的國，
하나님의 왕국에 들어가는 사람과 들어가지 못하는 사람을 정확하게 말씀하셨어요.
is completely defined by our relationship
完
to
全取
Him.
決於我們與他的關係，與他的個人關係。
예수님과의 관계에 의해서 들어갈 수 있다, 없다가 결정되는 거예요.
How we respond to His reaching out to
取
us.
決於我們如何去回應他對我們的呼召。
다가가느냐, 그것에 의해서 우리가 왕국에 들어갈 수 있고 못 들어가는 거예요.
And the thing that Jesus said would amaze people, He said that they would be amazed because they would find that in heaven, the people who you thought would be first would be last.
耶稣曾说过一句令人很惊讶的话，他说，在天国里，那些在前的要在后，将要在后，
나중이 될 수도 있다라고 그랬어요.
And the people who you thought would be last would be
而那些你以
first.
为会在后面的，将要在前。
들어갈 때 줄에 맨 마지막에 있을 사람도 처음이 될 수 있다라고 생각해요.
This is why the theological debate where we say, well, am I saved by grace or am I saved by
有一些
works?
神学辩论啊，就是比如说，我们是因为信心得救呢，还是因为行为得救呢？
행동에 의해서 구원을 받느냐, 이 신학에 의해서 교리에서 받느냐, 그 문제와 논쟁이 있었어요.
The correct answer is you're saved by
正确的答案
Jesus.
是，你是因为耶稣才得救的。
신에 의해서 구원을 받는 거예요.
And for Jesus, that's a deeply personal
而耶
thing.
稣的旨意是很私人的一件事情。
관계인 거예요.
So we should never talk about being saved by
其实我
faith.
们不太应该去讲因为信心而得救。
구원받는 것보다는요.
We should say, look, what I know is I
我们应
trust
该讲，我
Jesus.
所知道的是，我相信耶稣。
나는 예수님을 신뢰해요. 이것에 의하라는 거예요.
You know, preachers often wrongly will criticize the 12 disciples for being stupid as they read through the
许多
Gospels.
的牧师在读
Many
许多
preachers
的
will
牧
preach
师在
about
读
how
福音
stupid
书
the
的时候，
disciples
经
are.
常错误的批评12个使徒很愚蠢。
좀 어리석다고 생각할 수 있어요.
Right? They'll say, well, the disciples didn't
Right.
understand. They were
你看使徒们都不明白他在
arguing
说什
about the
么，
wrong thing.
他们彼此之间在讨论错误的事情。
뭐 이렇게 논쟁하고
But the interesting thing that Jesus says as he comes to the end of
但
his
有意思
life,
的是，在耶稣人生的最后时刻，
신학에 가서는 참 재미있게 예수님이 말씀하신 것이
knowing that he is about to be betrayed by
他
these
知道
guys,
他自己将会被这些人背叛。
배반당할 걸 벌써 알면서
he says,
他说
이렇게 말씀하셨어요.
I
他说
love
我
you
爱你们
guys.
나는 너희를 사랑한다.
Right? Greater love has no man
但
than
是
this,
人
that he
为朋友
lays
生
down
命，
his
人的
life
爱心没有
for
比这
his
更
friend.
大的。
And he says, you are the ones who have stood by
耶
me.
稣说：“你们是站在我这边
You've
的人，
accompanied me. You've been
陪
with
伴我
me.
的
You've
人。
stuck with me.
너희들이 제자들에게 너희들이 나와 함께 이렇게 동행했고 함께 있었다고 얘기하는 거예요.
And so interestingly, Jesus was not among those who criticized the disciples for being stupid.
有意思的是，耶稣并没有像那些批评使徒们的那些牧者一样去批评他
No,
们。
he's not like most preachers.
예수님이 다른 그 설교자처럼 그 제자들이 어리석다고 이렇게 비평하지 않았어요.
Actually, sometimes he says stuff like that. It's, man, what's wrong with you guys?
虽然他有时也会对使徒们讲：“你们这群家伙是怎么搞的
But you see, what Jesus remembered was they stuck？”
不
with
过你要
him.
知道，耶稣所记住的是他们是站在耶稣这边的。
그만큼 예수님과 함께 하느냐의 문제입니다.
They understood the kingdom belonged
因为
to
这些门
him.
徒坚信神的国是属基督、属耶稣的。
함께 속했어요.
And so remember when James and John, their mother, came to Jesus, she said, when you come into your kingdom, I'd really like you to give a good place for my
当雅
sons.
各和约翰的妈妈找到耶稣的时候，对耶稣说：“愿你叫我这两个儿子在你的国里，一个坐在你右边，一个坐在你的左边。”
들어가시면은 우리 아들들을 뭐 오른쪽에 왼쪽에 앉게 해달라 뭐 그런 거 있었잖아요.
You see, we can criticize her. We may say, oh, could she say
我们
such
会
a
批
thing?
评
She
这位
didn't
母亲
understand.
说，因为她说了很多不妥当的话。
아유 어떻게 그런 말을 할 수 있을까?
But at least she understood something that most of us Christians forget, which is that the whole thing is about Jesus. It's
但
his
是他说的
kingdom.
话中有着基督徒忘记的一个事实，那就是万物都是属于基督的，这是基督的国度。
그 엄마보다 우리가 더 이해를 못할 수도 있어요.
And so in this chapter
在马
10,
太福音的第10章里，
10장에 보면
this isn't a chapter just about a
这
mission
不
trip.
只是在讲一个宣教的旅行而已，
대해서만 얘기한 게 아니에요.
It is not a chapter about raising your hand at a Billy Graham
这也
crusade.
不是每一次做到都需要把手高高举起表示同意的经文。
집회 가가지고 막 손들고 뭐 부흥의 지처처럼 하는 것도 아니에요.
It is Jesus saying
而是
to
耶
us,
稣对我们所讲的话。
이게 이렇게 말씀하시는 거예요.
this is Jesus speaking. He says, I
耶
know.
稣让我们知道他理解我们的
I
处
know
境。
that when you represent me, when you make me the Lord of your life,
跟随耶稣会让你与其他的人的关系产生很大的冲突，
나를 최우선으로 두는 것을 알고 있어.
it is going to create conflict between you and all of the rest of your relationships.
因为跟随耶稣，你和其他的人的关系，这种处境，
않을 거야.
会出现很大的冲突。
인생을 살면서
Right? It's going to mess stuff up between you and your kids. But when Jesus becomes Lord of our life, it's going to mess stuff up between us and our
跟随耶
children.
稣之后，你和你的孩子的关系可能会变糟。
우리의 구주로 그렇게 살게 되면 아이들하고도 문제가 많을 거야.
Understand, if parents become Christian but children don't, it messes
如
up
果
that
父母信
relationship.
主而子女不信，那么双方的关系就可能因此而破裂。
그게 아니면은 그런 갈등이 많잖아요.
And children will say stuff like, hey, you need to stop being Christian and just be my
孩子可能
mom.
会对母亲说：“你不要再做一个基督徒了，你就做好我的妈妈就好了。
얘기인지 그만하고 나한테 신경 좀 쓰세요.
Or if you're a kid ”
如果你是孩子的话，
만약에 여러분들이 아이들 그 자녀라면
and you believe in
当你信
Jesus
主了，
여러분들이 예수님을 잘 믿고 있어요.
and your
但是你
parents
的父母
don't,
没有信的时候，
부모님은 안 믿어요.
Jesus is saying, look, I know it's not going to go
耶
well
稣
for
说：“
you
我
in
知道
that
这种情况你
situation.
会很辛苦的。
자녀들한테 얘기하는 거예요. 만약에 나를 최우선으로 하는 삶을 살면 아마 별로 좋은 일은 안 일어날 거야.
I hope you're praying for the urgent prayer request that we had this past week. Do you remember that prayer request in, was it Uganda? Is that the country? About the 3 kids who became Christian in, I think it was Uganda, wasn't it? It was Uganda? It was in Africa. And they became Christian and in this Muslim family, and their grandmother went pew and kicked them out
我
of the
希望大
home.
家都为上周的紧急代祷事项祷告了。在乌干达有3个穆斯林家庭里成长的孩子成为了基督徒，而他们的祖母把他们赶出家门了，因为他们转信了基督教。
Right? So imagine that
想象
moment,
一下那个情景，
그 순간에
right, where the grandmother says, all right, you got to make a
孩子
choice.
们的祖母说：“你们现在要做出选择。
그럼 선택을 해야 돼.
Right? If you choose
如果你们
Jesus,
选择耶稣，
예수님을 선택하면
right, we are cutting you off
我
from
们
this
就会和
family,
你们断绝关系，
우리 집에서 완전히 호적을 팔 거야.
and you're going to be out
而
on
你
the
们会在
streets.
街上流浪的。”
거리로 몰릴 거야.
Right? And these were pretty
要
young
知道他们是
kids.
很年轻的孩子，
굉장히 어린애란 말이에요.
And they
但他
said,
们说
we choose Jesus.：“
我们选择耶稣。
어린 아이들이 예수님을 선택했어요.
Jesus said, when you take my name on
耶
your
稣
soul,
说：“当你承认我的名的时候，
그 예수님의 이름을 그 우리 자신의 그 삶 속에서 이렇게 제거하면
did you find it, Pastor Tim? Oh, okay. So when you take my name on yourself, the government isn't going to like you in many
政府
places.
在许多的方面也都会不喜欢你。
이름을 달고 사면 사실 정부도 싫어해요.
Right? And you're going to be brought up on
你可能
charges.
会遭到起诉，
또 재판받는데 또 조사도 나오고요.
Could
你
even
甚
go
至
to
可能会
jail.
因此而坐牢。
감옥에도 갈 수.
He says you're going to have to escape probably from the city that you're
你甚
in.
至需要在各种各样的地方之间去逃
He
跑，
says they'll kick you out of the
可
synagogue.
能会被赶出你的教堂、你的会堂，
남을 당할 수도 있어요.
He said they'll call you
他
bad
们可能会污
names.
蔑你。
여러분들에게 또 나쁜 이름을 또 줄 수도 있어요. 막
He-
나쁜 말을 할 수 있어요.
He says they will
经
kill
常说
you.
你可能会被杀，
또 있어요.
And then he says,
但是
therefore.
耶稣说：“但是。”
그렇기 때문에 그 결과로
And what he says is, therefore I will never forget.
耶稣说：“我会纪念，我不会忘记。
내가 너를 마태복음 10장 32절.
I'll never forget that you chose
耶
me.
稣说：“我不会忘记你选择了我。
절대로 내가 잊지 않을게. 이렇게 말씀하는 거예요.
See, that's the good news of ”
而
this
这就
scripture.
是福音中的好消息。
엄청난 좋은 소식이에요.
Right? Jesus is not saying 10 times a day you must turn to the east and say, Jesus, Jesus, Bobezus, in order to be able to enter into the kingdom of God.
그 예수님 what?
I don't know. you
耶稣没有说
don't
过
have to
你要
stand
每
10
天
times a
14
day
次的东。
facing east like in,
耶稣并没有
Muslims
说
do
过
and say, Jesus, Jesus,
耶
Jesus.
稣并没有说过你要一天14次的东面用我的名祷告，像穆斯林那样。
필요가 없다는 거예요.
I just said, I don't know where that came from. So what he's saying is, I will never forget.
但总之你要知道，耶稣说：“我不会忘记你为我所做的事情。”
죽음까지도 뭐 이렇게 한 사람들 그 사람들에게 내가 절대로 잊지 않을 거야 말씀하시는 거예요.
Anyone who puts
每
me
一个把我放在
first,
首位的人，
나를 최우선으로 생각하면
ከም-
잊지 않을 거야.
puts me ahead of their
每个把
mother,
我看得比自己的母亲更重要的人，
나보다도 더 위에 나를 두면
puts me ahead of
比
their
自己的
son,
孩子更重要的，
나를보다도 더 위에 두면
puts me ahead
比
of the
自己的
government.
政府更重要的人，
나보다도 나를 더 위에 두면
I will never
我不
forget.
会忘记你们的选择。
잊지 않을 거야. 그렇게 예수님 말씀하세요.
And you see, the Bible is the
圣
proof of
经
that.
也印证了这一点。
그것을 입증하는 거예요.
Because in the Bible, what we see is that people who believe that heaven is a reward for the righteous discover that human beings are not
在
righteous.
圣经里，我们看到，当人们把天国当成是义人的赏赐的时候，也就是说，人本身并不是公义的。
사실 우리는 의로운 사람이 없어요.
Right? So this is the thing that's important to
所以这是一
understand.
件很重要的一个点，我们需要去了解。
중요해요, 이 부분을.
Right? And we see this all the time with people who are not Christian. When someone they love dies, they say, yeah, but I still believe he went to heaven because he's a good person, you know? He got cats
我
down
们
on
经
a
常
tree
听
and
到那
helped the
些
woman across
非
the
基督
street.
徒，当他们失去自己所爱的人的时候，他们会说：“这我的爱人会进天国的，因为他们做了很多好事。”啊，
But Jesus is very
但是
clear.
耶稣却说得很明确。
아주 분명하게 말씀하셨어요.
The only reason, by the way, that those things happen in human beings, the only reason why we do
啊
anything
我们
good
之所以做这些好的事情，
왜 선한 일을 하는지 아세요?
is because of God's
这
grace.
都是因为神的恩典。
하나님의 은혜 때문에 그 사람들이 기독교인이 아니래도 하는 거예요.
Right? The Bible is clear that there's nothing
在圣经里，
good
保罗说得很清楚，他说：“我肉体之中没有良善。
선한 것이 없어요.
that comes from us.
어,
There's nothing good that
我们里
comes
面
from us.
不是良善的。
힘으로 선해질 수가 없는 거예요.
So the only way we enter into
我
the
们进
kingdom
入神的国唯一的方法，
유일한 방법은
is because the king
我们进入神的国唯一的原因，是因为王纪念我们。
우리를 기억하기 때문에 그런 거예요.
And why does he
王
remember
为什么
us?
会纪念我们？
예수님이 우리를 기억해요?
Not because we were in church all
不是
the
因为我们
time.
经常去教会，
그렇기 때문에 그런 게 아니에요.
Not because we
不是
prayed
因
a
为我们总
lot.
是祷告，
우리가 맨날 기도하기 때문에 그런 게 아니에요.
He said it's not even because you heal people or raise them from the
甚至不是因
dead.
为
It is not even because you heal people or do great
甚至不
miracles.
是因为你行神迹医治了别人，把死人救活了。
Jesus said, in fact, he said, there will be a lot of people on that judgment day who come and say, don't you remember I raised 3 people from the dead? In fact, I just
耶
did it
稣
last
说过，
month.
到那日许多人会说：“主啊，主啊，我不是奉你的名医治赶鬼吗
죽은 사람도 뭐 기적을 일으키고 뭐 이렇게 했다라고 얘기하는 사람이 있을 거라 그랬어요.
And Jesus will say, you didn't raise anybody from the dead. ？”
耶
I
稣会
did.
说：“你没有医治任何人，是我医治了这些人。
언제 죽은 사람을 일어나게 했느냐? 내가 했지. 이렇게 말씀하실 거라.
But there will be a lot of really
而
bad
当那一
people.
日的时候，我们会看到很多很糟糕的人，
그런 사람들이 많다는 얘기예요.
People who never could get their lives
这些
straight.
从来没有干过什么好事的人。
삶이 정말 제대로 살지 못하는 사람이 많다는 거예요.
And when Jesus sees them,
当耶稣看到他们的时候，
그분들을 보면
he will say, Father, Father, look who it is. Look.
呃，
Like someone comes to heaven and Jesus says, look, Father, look who it is. It's Peter.
对，耶稣会说：“啊，天父，天父，你看这是谁来了？是彼得啊！”
예수님이 하나님 아버지 여기 피로가 왔어요. 뭐 이렇게 얘기하면
And everybody will say, but Peter was a
但是其他
terrible
人会
guy.
说：“彼得是个很坏的人啊。
피로가 정말 나쁜 사람이었는데
And
但
Jesus
耶
said,
也许会说
I
我
remember.
记得他。
기억한다라고 얘기할 거예요.
When Peter
当
chose me
他选择我的时候，
나를 선택했기 때문에.
over the girl, actually.
因为选择我而没有选择别的女孩的时候，
She wasn't Christian.
这个女孩也因为这个女孩不是基督徒，
기독교인이 아니었는데.
And Peter said, I can't be with somebody who doesn't
彼得
acknowledge
说：“我不能
Jesus.
和一个不认识耶稣的人在一起。
있는 사람들은 하나님 모르는데 어떻게
耶稣可能会这样的讲。
사람하고 저 사람을 더 좋아해요? 이렇게 생각한 거예요.
So you see, anytime that we acknowledge Jesus over all of those other important
任何
relationships,
时候，当我们把耶稣放在其他的事情之上的时候，
예수님을 어떤 중요하다고 생각하는 그 어떤 것보다도 더 최우선으로 예수님을 생각하면
that's what
耶
Jesus
稣
remembers.
会纪念我们这么做。
기억한다.
Let me say it even a little bit more boldly.
让我来讲的更大胆一点，
과감하게 말씀드릴게요.
You could preach a crusade in front of thousands
你
of
可以对着
people
上千人进行讲道，
모이는데 막 그 집회에서 막 설교도 할 수 있어요.
and heal them.
医治他们，
사람들을 치유하는 능력이 있을 수도 있어요.
And it doesn't impress
但
Jesus.
神有可能一点也不喜悦你的这个行为。
예수님에게 큰 감동을 주지 못한다.
He says stuff like, well, who made your mouth? I made your mouth, so don't
耶
brag
稣会
about
说：“
it.
你的嘴是谁造的呢？是我造的呀。
예수님이 나야 이렇게 말씀하실 거란 말이에요. 우리가 잘나서가 아니에요.
But when you make choices in your life based upon valuing the relationship you have with Jesus above any other relationship, He never ”
但是
forgets that.
当我们在人生中将自己与耶稣的关系放在与其他任何事物之间的关系之上的时候，他不会忘记这一点，
다른
他不会忘记你这样的一个选择。
것으로 생각하고 결정을 한다면 예수님이 난 너를 절대로 잊지 않을 거야. 기억할 거야. 이렇게 말씀하신단 말이에요.
There's a movie that actually makes this point
有
really
一部
well.
电影很适合来解释我的这个观点，
근데 이런 얘기를 증명해주는 입증해주는 영화예요.
The movie is called
这部电影
Silence.
叫做《寂静》。
라는 그런 영화가 있어요.
All right, Pastor Tim, 2 weeks in a row, Pastor Tim and I, the movies here. Yeah. So in the movie Silence, it is a movie about missionaries going to Japan to try to locate one of their missionary brothers who's been lost there and probably persecuted, maybe gave up his faith. They don't know. They're trying to find out what happened to him.
这部电影是讲述两个宣教士到日
Yeah,
本，
well, so these two missionaries go to Japan to try to find a missionary who's already there that they've
就
lost
说两个
contact
宣
with.
教士到日本去寻找另一个失踪的宣教士。这个失踪的宣教士可能遭遇了逼迫，也可能失去信仰了或怎样，他们不知道。
된 거예요. 그래서 거기 일본에 가서 그 선교사들을 찾는 그런 영화예요.
So they want to find out what happened to their
他们要
missionary
去调查这
brother.
件事情，看看到底发生了什么事。
자매인 그 선교사들의 무슨 일이 일어났는지를 거기에서 발견해요.
Right? And they said, no, there is no way this guy is ever going to give up his faith, man. This guy is strong.
他们认为这个失踪的人是不可能放弃信仰的，因为他是一个信心很大的人。
보다 굉장히 강한 그런 기독교인이고 선교사이다.
And these missionaries, these two guys who go, they're really strong too.
而这
Strong
两
faith.
个去找那个人的宣教士也是很有信心的信徒。
믿음이 강한 그런 선교사였어요.
And the whole movie, man, these Christians in Japan, they're getting, drowned in the sea and they're getting tortured and
整部
stuff.
电影里面，这两个宣教士遭遇了许多的苦难。
그러면요, 이 선교사들 기독교인들이 막 고문당하고 아니면은 그 막 해변가에서 막 떨어뜨림을 당하고 막 이래요.
And the missionaries, they're right there along with it. They're suffering, they're struggling, but
这
they're
两
being
个宣教
faithful,
士
you know.
与当地的基督徒一起遭到逼迫，他们一起挣扎。
But there's this other guy in the movie, this
不
Japanese
过在
guy.
电影里有另外一个日本人，
영화에서 보면은 또 일본 사람이 있어요. 나오는데
He's
他是一
drunkard.
个酒鬼，
굉장히 술 주정뱅이에요.
And ultimately, he sells them out
他
for
总
money.
是为了金钱，
He betrays them
他
for
总是
money.
为了金钱而背叛这两个宣教士。
돈을 받고 팔아요 또.
In fact,
교환했어요.
actually, throughout the movie, he does these kind of things several times. I mean, really
在
terrible
整部电
things.
影里，他这样背叛了宣教士好几次，做的事情也非常的糟糕。
아니에요. 일본 그 사람이.
Right? And every time he comes back and he says, I need to confess my
不过
sin.
每次
I-
做坏的事情，他都会向别人忏悔，向别人认罪。
이렇게 막 용서를 빌고 고백을 해요. 죄를 자백을 해요.
And so the missionaries forgive
所以
him.
宣教士就选择原谅他。
또 이렇게 용서해주고.
So throughout the movie, you hate this guy, but you look at the missionaries and say, wow, they're amazing. They even
当你们
forgave
看
this
电影的时候，
guy.
你们会非常的讨厌这个人物，但是你们会说，哦，宣教士真的很了不起，竟然可以原谅他。
이렇게 기도만 하고 또 와서 또 용서 구하고 선교사는 되게 좋아 보여요.
But what happens is by the end of the
但是到了
movie,
电影的最后的时候，
끝부분으로 가면은
even the strongest
即
mission
使这个信心很大的宣教士
믿음이 강했던 선교사도
has betrayed
也否认
Jesus.
了耶稣的名，也背叛了耶稣，
He gives up being a
他放弃了
missionary.
做一名宣教士。
부인한 다음에 선교사를 그만해요.
And so the Japanese win. They have
所以
overcome
当时
Christianity.
日本就胜利了，他们战胜了基督徒。
왜냐하면 이 선교사가 이제 선교사역도 안 하고 예수님 부인하고 완전히 끝난 거예요.
Except
除了
for
一件事情，
누구를 제외하고
the drunkard
就
betrayer
是那个
guy.
酒鬼，那个背叛者。
계속 배반을 했던 술 주정뱅이만 빼고 다 선교사들이 다 배반을 한 거예요.
He keeps
他
coming
总
back,
是回转过来，
또 와요 이 술 주정뱅이는
keeps returning
总是
to
回转向
Jesus,
耶稣，
계속 예수님께 다시 돌아와요.
keeps
他
recognizing
总
what
是
he's
意识
done
到自己
wrong.
做错了。
잘못한 거를 계속 또 인정하고 깨달아요.
You know, last week when we were
上周
together,
五啊，我们在一起的时候，
그러니까 예배 드릴 때
we were talking about sin and how
我们
seriously
探讨了
Jesus takes
罪
sin.
与耶稣的话题。
얼마나 심각하게 생각하는지에 대해서 얘기했어요.
So you may be wondering, well, how does last week and this week relate? Because it sounds like you're saying this week. I mean, how can you hold up this drunkard guy and you can say that even bad people are going to go to heaven because the relationship
你
with
可能
Jesus? How does
会
that
在
work?
想，上周跟这周的讲到有什么关联呢？为什么这些特别坏的人能够得以进入天国呢？
사람하고 예수님은 죄를 심각하게 생각한다는데 어떻게 연관을 지을 수 있을까 생각할 거예요.
答案就是，
여기 답이에요.
For Jesus, sin is deeply
对于
personal.
耶稣来讲，犯罪是一件很私人的事情。
이렇게 생각하는데 개인적으로 생각하세요.
You see, what bothers Jesus about sin is it is an offense to him. It is a personal offense against
而对
him.
罪对于耶稣来讲是一种直接冒犯于他的一种行为。
완전히 반대하는 거를 의미하는 거예요.
So you see, there are many people who try to be
有许
good,
多的人，他们竭尽全力想要做一个好人，
나를 좋은 사람처럼 보이잖아요.
but it doesn't move, it doesn't touch
但
Jesus
这样
at
做并不会
all.
拉近他们与耶稣的关系。
좋은 사람 같아도 하나님 예수님의 마음을 감동시키지 못하면
Because human goodness is to Jesus, it's
因
nothing.
为人的
It's-
良善在耶稣看来是虚无缥缈的，
그 선한 거는 그 예수님한테는 아무것도 아니에요.
It is not a reason to let someone
人
into
的良
heaven.
善不是人进天国的原因。
그것만 인간이 좋아 보인다고 해서 천국에 갈 수 있는 게 아니에요.
But those who recognize that when they sin, their sin is first and foremost against
但是
Jesus.
那些罪首先是针对耶稣的一种冒犯。
깨닫고 이것이 예수님을 완전히 반대로 대항한 거구나라고 깨닫는 사람들은
Those people Jesus always
那
forgives
些耶稣始终在原谅的人，
받아요 예수님한테.
70 times,
他
7
原谅了
times.
70乘7次的那些人，
70번씩
有这样的人。
70번이라도 죄를 용서받는다.
Right? So in that movie, we're impressed by the missionaries because they seem to have this strong
我们在
willpower.
电影中可能会很钦佩那些有信心的宣教士，
막 믿음을 가진 사람처럼 보여요.
Jesus isn't impressed because he knows the limits of our will.
但是耶稣当他看到一些软弱的人时，他是很
But
惊讶
instead,
的。
Jesus is impressed by the drunkard betrayer
对，耶
guy.
稣其实会更喜悦那个酒鬼，
선생인 이 일본 사람한테 감동을 예수님이 받으시는 거예요.
Because somehow, sooner or later, he always
因为
returns
他
to
总是会
Jesus.
回转向耶稣。
항상 예수님께 다시 돌아오거든요. 그래서 죄를 자백하거든요.
So that's why Jesus told the story of the two people in the
耶稣也
temple.
讲到过两个在圣殿的人，
이 성전에 있는 두 사람에 대해서 그래서 말씀하시는 거예요.
And the one person said, well, Lord, thank you for being able to make me such a righteous person. I'm not like that guy over
一个
there.
人说：“主啊，我感谢你把我造成了一个义人，而不像旁边的那个罪人一样。
만들어주셔서 저를 만들어주셔서 감사합니다. 나는 저 사람하고는 달라요. 이러는 사람이 있었어요.
Right? Because the guy over there is going, Lord, I am so sorry. I keep doing this ” over
因为
and
旁
over
边那个
against
人说：“主
you.
啊，我非常的抱歉，我总是在犯罪，请你原谅我。
나쁜 사람이에요. 막 이랬거든요.
And his question was, who went away ”
问题
justified?
是这两个人，
Who went away in the right relationship
问
with
题是
God?
这两个人哪个人会被称义呢？
예수님과의 옳은 관계를 하러 갔나요?
You see, it's when we understand that our sin is an offense to him. It's a personal hurt to
我们要
Jesus.
记住，我们犯罪首先得罪的是耶稣。
그 예수님을 개인적으로 상처 준 사람이에요. 예수님이 좋아하지 않는 것을 했기 때문에 그걸 알아야 되는 거예요.
That's what touches Jesus' heart.
而这些我们的这些选择，其实是牵动着耶稣的心的。
예수님을 감동을 주는 거예요.
It's-
왜냐하면 예수님이 싫어하는 걸 알았다는 거기 때문에.
It's not our quest, our journey to be
我们
good
并非
that
在追
impresses
求
Jesus.
成为一个好人，
아니면은 예수님을 감동시키기 위해서 우리가 좋은 선한 사람이 될 필요가 없는 거예요.
What impresses Jesus is our acknowledging that we belong to
而
Him.
是在一些特殊的时刻，我们在人面前承认耶稣，承认我们是属于耶稣的人，
알게 하는 것이
我们是属他的人。